Om Shanti, 28th April 1977. Bap Dada is seeing the Suhag, fortune of being wed, and the fortune of the children. He is seeing the tilak of Suhag and the crown of light of fortune. To have the crown and the tilak applied means to be one who has Suhag and fortune. The sign of constantly having Suhag is to have the tilak of imperishable awareness. The sign of constantly having fortune is purity, and to receive all attainments from the Father means to have the crown of light. If the awareness is lacking, then the tilak does not sparkle clearly. A sparkling tilak is the sign of the Suhag being constantly with the Father. Such a bride who constantly has a tilak of being wed is constantly visible in the front of the world as an elevated soul. In a Lokik way also, a bride is seen with elevated vision, and the bride is always kept ahead when an elevated task has to be carried out. It is believed in the Lokik world that if she has lost her Suhag, that is partner, she has lost her world. In the same way, in Alokik life also, every soul is a bride of the one bridegroom. That is, they are constantly wed to him. Do you constantly see the tilak of your Suhag? The sign of being constantly lost in the love of one, of having the tilak of awareness, is the tilak of Suhag. If the tilak is rubbed off, it means you have finished your Suhag. Ask yourself, am I constantly wed? A bride never becomes separated for even one breath or moment. The words in the mind of a bride are, we will constantly stay together, live together, and die together. The image of the bridegroom is constantly merged in the eyes, lips, and face of the bride. She only hears his words through her ears. On the path of bhakti, they have the practice of constantly hearing soundless words, anhad shabd, and if they hear this sound even once after making a lot of effort, they consider their bhakti to have been worthwhile. The customs and systems of bhakti have been copied from your practical life of the present time. A bride is one who constantly hears the echo of the eternal great mantra, Man Mana Bhav. She would constantly experience Baba repeating these words again and again and bringing back this awareness. While walking and moving around, she would constantly be hearing these imperishable words personally from the Father, and would not hear the words of other soul while hearing them. One who is constantly wed would always have the stage of I speak to you, I listen to you, I only speak that which you have related. Such a bride would not bring another soul into her awareness even through thought for even 1 second. That is, she would never be subservient to any bodily being. Attachment is something greater, but she wouldn't even be subservient to anyone. In Lokik life also, for a bride to have thoughts of or to dream of another man is considered to be a great sin. In the same way, if a soul is constantly wed is subservient to the soul of a bodily being in thoughts or dreams, then this is also considered to be a great sin for that soul. To constantly have this Suhag means to belong to the one Father and none other. Do you have the tilak of such a Suhag applied? Maya does not rub off the tilak, does she? Together with the constant Suhag, there is also constant fortune. You do not just have this Suhag, but you are also fortunate. To be constantly fortunate means to have the crown of light. In the Lockic world, to have the kingdom is a sign of fortune, and the sign of the kingdom is the crown. So too, the sign of godly fortune is the crown of light, and the basis of attaining this crown is to have purity and all attainments. Complete purity means there shouldn't be the slightest trace of any vice, even in your mind, and all attainments means the attainment of knowledge, all virtues and all powers. If any attainment is lacking, then the crown of light will not be clearly visible. It will be unseen and hidden behind the clouds of impurity and lack of attainment. You will not be able to experience yourself as constantly light or soul conscious. You won't experience yourself to be light while performing action. Only after making effort again and again, and after the practice of paying a lot of attention, you will be able to experience yourself as being light. As soon as you try to think that you are a soul, instead of experiencing yourself as light, you will experience yourself to be a body. The basis of fortune is all attainments. The sign of all attainments is imperishable happiness. One who is constantly fortunate would be constantly happy. If there is not much fortune, there will be less happiness. And if there is less happiness, it means you are not constantly fortunate. So do you now understand what the signs of being constantly wed and constantly fortunate are? Now, keeping all these things in front of you, check. Who am I? Acha. To those who constantly have the tilak of Suhag, to the greatly fortunate souls, to those who are the embodiment of all attainments, to the constant companions of the Father, to such elevated souls, Bap Dada's love, remembrance and Namaste.